In the heart of a Coruna, tucked away on a narrow, cobbled side street, was Il Labirinto di Papel, a bookstore that seemed to march to the beat of its own drum. Its rustic charm and decidedly old-world feel set it apart from the gleaming modern storefronts that dominated the city. Walking through its doors, Detective Sergio Martinez was struck with a sense of history. The air was ripe with the musty smell of aging paper and ink. Rows upon rows of ancient, leather-bound books towered above him, their spines boasting esoteric titles and a diverse array of subject history, philosophy, science. Fiction, especially contemporary works, was glaringly absent. A young man, perhaps in his late 20s or early 30s, looked up from behind the counter. He was unremarkable at first glance, with a nondescript baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. But the intense look in those eyes spoke volumes, hinting at a deep-seated passion, perhaps even obsession, with the world of books. Detective Sergio Martinez introduced himself and broached the subject of the store's distinct lack of fiction. The young man's response was immediate and passionate. "We believe in knowledge here, real knowledge," he said, with a sharp disdain. "These contemporary writers, like Stephen King, they twist reality, introduce absurdities. They take readers away from the truth, away from God. We do not entertain such blasphemy here." The vehement declaration took Sergio aback. The depth of the young man's conviction was surprising, to say the least. "Could you tell me more about your customers?" Sergio asked, casual but intent. He hoped the informality of his question would put the young man at ease. "We have a varied clientele," the young man responded, a hint of pride in his voice. "Academics, scholars, researchers, mostly. We also get a fair amount of curious readers looking for something different from what they'd find in regular bookstores. Some are drawn in by our selection of historical and factual texts." Sergio nodded, a plan forming in his mind. "I see. And these customers, do you often see them return? Are there any that stand out?" The young man thought for a moment, his gaze drifting toward the door, as if expecting a customer to walk in at any moment. "We do have our regulars," he said finally. "But honestly, it's hard to keep track. People usually come here for specific books. Once they get what they want, they don't often return, unless they are truly passionate about these kinds of books." Sergio leaned in, a slight frown on his face. "What about books on darker subjects? The occult, magic, things like that?" The young man raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by the inquiry. He glanced around the store, seemingly ensuring no other customers were within earshot. "We don't have a selection along those lines," he admitted slowly. "But it's not something we publicize. It tends to attract a certain type of customer." "And who might that be?" Sergio pressed. His interest piqued. The worker hesitated, then shrugged. "Truth seekers, thrill seekers, the curious and the obsessive. Some folks are drawn to the mystique, the taboo. Others are searching for something deeper, darker. But like I said, it's a select few. We don't openly advertise these books, for obvious reasons." Sergio nodded, his mind racing. Could these elusive books be connected to the murders in some way? He knew he had more digging to do, but for now, he'd gained a valuable piece of information. "Would you be interested in seeing this section, detective?" the young man asked, a curious edge to his voice. Sergio hesitated, his mind whirring. Could this selection of obscure books provide a lead? It was a long shot, but at this point, he was willing to explore every possibility. Besides, he needed to know whether the killer could potentially be among these select few. "That'd be helpful," Sergio said finally, his gaze steady on the young man. "Maybe I could understand better what draws the select few to these types of books." The young man nodded, a flicker of respect crossing his face. "Of course, detective, follow me." Sergio's footsteps rang softly against the worn wooden floor, each step taking him farther into the maze of bookshelves. As the dim lighting revealed rows upon rows of ancient tomes and manuscripts, he grew uneasy. Still, he pressed on, driven by an instinct that he might be on the cusp of a significant discovery.